What's going on, everybody? RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting. Happy Monday, happy day before Valentine's Day, and all that good stuff. I hope everybody's doing great. Today, we're going to be talking about the CARES Act, the fact that it's ending, the fact that there's about 5,000 inmates that are out on CARES Act home confinement right now. And we're going to find out what all of this means for any of you that are getting ready to either go into prison or maybe you're interested in getting CARES Act for yourself. How's it going to affect you? Well, that's coming up next. Stay tuned. Okay. And we're back. Magic. Hope everybody's having a great week. Had a great weekend, great start to your week. I've been battling COVID. I'm on, week 3 now, on the tail end of COVID. So I apologize. I'm drinking tea and coughing in your ear. So enjoy that. Give everybody a couple of minutes to join. We're actually running a few minutes early. Working from home, been home. I don't think I've left the house. I feel like a couch potato, as sick as I've been, which is all the much more strange that all of a sudden they're going to start ending these programs that are much needed in the Bureau of Prisons. So that's going to be fun to discuss. Who's joining us today? Let me know who's in the room. Say hi, give a thumbs up, all that good stuff. To make sure you don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you want any content, if there's anything that you would like to see us do a video on, drop a comment or a link in the description. Drop a comment in the description, and we'll try to do a video on that if it's something that you need to talk about. We're going to have Tom back on in a couple days. I wanted to have Tom on this video, but didn't really have time to coordinate with him. But we will be jumping over to Tom's website here in a few minutes. Also, if you would like to book a consultation, we've got a free consultation, which is 15 minutes, that basically just goes over basic stuff on your file. If you want to talk about, what the basics of RDAP is, if you have some general questions, that is a free 15-minute consultation. If you would like to book a more in-depth consultation, we do have a paid consultation it's an hour consultation. We can do a deep dive. You can send us documents. We can log into Pacer. We can pull up your case. We can pull up co-defendants' cases. We can do a little case discussion. Get on the phone with your attorney if you like to find out what your options are if you're trying to qualify for things like RDAP or home confinement or compassionate release, personal narratives, character reference letters. Maybe you have your own letters and you want us to review them. There is a link in the description of the video. It's in our link tree. If you're not familiar with link tree, it's a cool little tool. I just dropped a link in there. You can click on the link tree and it's got all of our options on there for booking a free consultation or a paid consultation. We also have a special right now for personal narratives and character reference letters. We're in a $1,500 letter package where if you want us to take care of all of your letters, review your letters, we'll do a full interview with you based on how you guys answer the interview questions. We can then go in and start crafting your narrative. We would do the same thing with your friends and family. If you would like us to help you with your reference letters, we can interview whoever is going to be doing your references. Mom, dad, brother, sister, daughter, best friend. These are all individuals that could potentially be really good references. At the same time, they can also be references that don't really help if you don't know what you're asking, or you start just rambling on, going in different directions. So you want to make sure that you're doing it the right way. So we can help you navigate that. All of that, you can just book your consultation and we can take it from there. All right. So CARES Act. Many of you are very well, and CARES Act doesn't just affect the BOP. CARES Act affects people that are food stamps, people that are getting, assistance, government assistance. All these different things are through the CARES Act. And Joe Biden has finally determined to end CARES Act. And we'll go ahead and jump over here to what Tom's got going on so you guys can follow with us. So let's head over here. So CARES Act is scheduled to end on May 11th. This was an update on January 31st. We thought it was going to run longer, but unfortunately, that's not the case. So it's scheduled to end on May 11th. However, there is going to be a 30-day grace period. So that means basically anybody that submit, you have to have all of your submissions requests for CARES Act done before May 11th. And then there's a 30-day grace period. So it officially will be dead. Stick a fork in it. It's dead. On June 10th of this year, it will be no more. We have a lot of clients right now that are reaching out to us asking information about this. It's real unfortunate, and this really could affect the individuals that are on CARES Act home confinement, different than compassionate release. I know a lot of you still get that very confused on CARES Act, home confinement. What's the difference? So we want to make sure, let's talk about that for a couple seconds here, just to kind of go over and touch on that to make sure everybody's on the same page. So if you have comorbidities, you have, high blood pressure, diabetes, you're overweight, there's a whole list of what the comorbidities are. And if you fit into any of those significant categories, you could be considered for CARES Act home confinement, which basically lifts the BOP's policy. Prior to this, the BOP's policy states that an individual can only do up to 10% of their sentence on CARES Act or on home confinement, or 6 months. Meaning, so if your 10% is more than 6 months, you're only going to be able to do 6 months of your entire sentence on home confinement. So for an example, let's say you're serving your prison sentence and you're put in for 12 months of halfway house on a 60-month sentence. So you were sentenced to 60 months. You get to the last part of your sentence. You've got your good time. Maybe you did RDAP. You've got some things in there, some FSA credits, and they give you a year of halfway house. If you're given a year of halfway house, per the BOP's policy, you can do 10% of your time on home confinement. So on a 60-month sentence, if you're given 12 months of halfway house, you would do 6 months of that 12 months in the halfway house, and the other 6 months could be done on home confinement. Well, because of the pandemic and CARES Act has lifted that policy temporarily due to the pandemic and the disaster relief. You can do all of your time on home confinement per the CARES Act. So we have individuals that got 7, 8, 10-year sentences that didn't serve very much time at all, and they were kicked straight home to home confinement through CARES Act. Now, a lot of individuals that were either denied CARES Act home confinement, or there was no response to them, or maybe they hadn't hit their qualified time yet. There's a certain amount of time you have to have under your belt before you can be considered for it. A lot of individuals are now they're getting ready with compassionate release, where instead of having the BOP dictate and send you home on CARES Act home confinement, if you're denied for that, you can also apply directly through your court after you've exhausted your BOP remedies. And that's where this is going to be a very important piece to the puzzle. And if you have any questions, feel free to chime in, ask a question here. We'll talk about it. But individuals right now that are out on CARES Act, meaning they didn't get court ordered home confinement, it wasn't given to them through the judge, it was given to them through the BOP. Once CARES Act is dead, so come June 10th, technically the BOP could recall all of these individuals, could be sent back to prison. Now, I know a lot of you are going, oh, well, they already said they're not going to do that. They're not going to recommend that. Well, let's go back over here again, guys, and let's talk about this a little bit. The problem is they're creating these new memos and they're adding new verbiage to how this is going to work. And even though the Bureau of Prisons isn't going to recommend it, if somebody's out on CARES Act and they've got more than a few years left to go, they're now going to be chiming in let's see here, let me get back to my notes. So the RRM, the reentry centers, RRM is your halfway houses, the RM, that's who's going to be overseeing this. So part of what they're going to be doing now is, instead of just making the decision whether or not you're going to go home or stay out, stay out on home confinement or go back and finish your sentence in the BOP, they're now going to be reaching out to the assistant attorney's office, the ASO, the AUSO on here, the assistant U.S. attorney, the district for where you were sentenced. They're going to be getting feedback from them to whether or not that you should be considered to stay home on home confinement. The problem with that, guys, is we've done so many of these submissions for compassionate release. And when we do a submission for compassionate release, it has to be submitted to the U.S. Attorney's Office as well. And I don't think I can remember one time where the ASUA came in and said, yeah, we think compassionate release, they try to block it on every occasion. So we can only imagine, if they're going to be giving this option, if they're going to be reaching out to the assistant U.S. attorney in your district or wherever you were sentenced out of, if they're going to be reaching out to them, getting input from them, it's almost a guarantee that they're going to suggest that you go back to prison. So if you're out on CARES Act compassionate release right now, one of the things that you definitely want to be considering to do is moving it to the court, filing a compassionate release through the court, where the court then issues you home confinement. Many times, what the court will do is they'll vacate your sentence and then they'll resentence you to however much time you have left to do your time in home confinement. Then you're kind of guaranteed to stay home. I mean, unless you go out and act a fool and break the law and get yourself in more trouble. But aside from that, the Bureau of Prisons can't recall you. There's a little over 5,000 individuals out on CARES Act right now, CARES Act home confinement, that are probably going to be heavily affected by this. If I were on CARES Act home confinement right now, I would be terrified. For somebody to be home and you're doing the right thing, you're working, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and Biden killed the CARES Act, which is going to be a ripple effect. I just don't understand. COVID-19. The problem is they've now determined that COVID-19 is an endemic versus a pandemic that can be managed through the BOP's normal agencies. So they're saying that that what we know as a pandemic can now be monitored, managed, maintained with proper medical, and all of this can now be handled through the Bureau of Prisons, which we know is just not true. I mean, the BOP can barely put a Band-Aid on straight. You cut your finger and you go to medical and, I don't see a cut. And you're gushing blood. Wrap some toilet paper on it. Here's an aspirin. Get out of here. So COVID is still ramping through the BOP. It's still ramping through the United States. My entire household just got it. We got COVID. Well, I got COVID when it first came out, before it was really known what it was back in the early days, back in the stone age of COVID. I had it. And then Shelly got it recently. Shelly got it. Shelly, we also own a teeth whitening business, and Shelly, she, I guess, got transmitted through somebody she was conducting teeth whitening on, and came home. And she had it 2 days later, she was on her deathbed, tested positive. A couple days later, I started sniffling, sneezing, and I'm a big baby as it is. So I thought maybe I just had a little cold. But I took a test. I've took several tests now, and all of them came back. It was pretty bad. The cold sweats, the not being able to breathe, the not being able to sleep, hot, cold, fevering, achy, flu-like symptoms. I imagine it, just horrible. So I can't imagine what that would be like for somebody that's currently sitting in the Bureau of Prisons having COVID, not even having the ability to go home. So even though many of you have been vaccinated and you think that you're safe, you got all your boosters, you got your 300 boosters and you're good, they're still showing people are getting it left and right, still transmitting. The BOPs are still going on lockdowns. Different prisons are still not doing visitations. So it's still a giant mess in the system. And this is a huge problem because now if you're highly susceptible to getting COVID, and you've already got high mortality rates. So if you're elderly, if you're overweight, if you've got high blood pressure, if you've got diabetes, all of these things can now, not only can you get COVID, but you don't even have an alternative outlet to maybe have the BOP send you home. Now your only option would be to do compassionate release attempts, which, let's be honest, to do compassionate release or an attempt for compassionate release is much more expensive because these motions have to be created. They got to get filed with the court. The court can approve, deny it. So you want to make sure that you got all your medical records in row. This is part of, if you want to book a consultation with us, and this, I would definitely recommend a paid consultation on this avenue. We can review all of your medical records. Tom Root and I can go through everything, dig through it, and look at what the opportunity for you to be approved or denied. Because ultimately it's going to be up to the judge, where right now, many of you have an opportunity where the BOP can just say, yeah, you can write it on a napkin, send it to the warden. The warden technically could approve it. So you can, it's much cheaper if you can get CARES Act home confinement directly through the BOP versus taking it through the court system. Court system can be timely, it can be expensive, but it can send you home. And I will tell you, the majority of the individuals that we've helped receive compassionate release, it wasn't through the BOP. Most of the individuals that we assisted with in the BOP were denied. A lot of the individuals that were approved for CARES Act, they were approved without really even trying. It was in their documentation, their medical notes. It was there. The BOP sent them home. If that's not your situation, you're really going to want to look at your options here. And if you're not sure if you've got a loved one in the BOP right now, and you're not sure if they qualify for CARES Act, if they haven't, because it has a lot to do with the type of crime. It has a lot to do with how much time you already have in. You got to meet certain criteria to be approved for the CARES Act. We have a client that was sentenced to 40 something months. He just started his sentence the end of last year, and he's definitely fits the bill for CARES Act, but he's not going to meet the time requirement. By the time he hits how much time he needs to have left on his sentence and how much time he has in, CARES Act is going to be dead, which is going to put him at a disadvantage to be able to qualify for it. He doesn't feel confident in doing a compassionate release attempt due to the fact he went to trial and lost at trial, and his judge doesn't seem to be too fond of him. So they're a little hesitant to attempt compassionate release through the courts. My experience, many of you think the judge hates you. Many of you think you have an amazing judge. I can tell you that no matter what the judge thinks about you the day of sentencing, when you come back for something like a motion to file compassionate release, unless you really made a mark on this judge, the judge probably isn't going to remember anything about your case. He's going to review the documents. He's probably going to have to get notes from paralegals and his assistant. He's probably 300 years old and doesn't remember anything about your sentencing hearing. He just went through your PSR. He looked at the guideline range. He got a recommendation from what the government was saying, recommendation from what the pre-sentence report was saying. And if you've got a good case, if there's things that are different from, like, if you bring up whatever your sentencing factors are. So let's say you're getting sentenced today and maybe you didn't really do a drilled down job on your medical situation, or your attorney really didn't mention your medical. Attorney's like, well, Your Honor, is there any way, my client's highly susceptible to COVID. Can he be considered for compassionate release? But maybe there wasn't a detailed written oral agreement as to what your medical conditions really are, how dangerous the BOP is for you to be in there due to this. If that wasn't articulated properly, these sentencing factors can be raised after sentencing, and this could be a great consideration for why the judge may want to consider you for compassionate release. Many individuals don't know how to ask for compassionate release. They ask for it the wrong way. They file the wrong types of motions. Basically, it's just asking the judge to give them compassionate release where they're releasing you from your prison sentence. And if you just started your prison sentence and you think the judge is going to go, well, yes, let's give you compassionate release, you need to ask for alternative measures of vacating the sentence, maybe resentencing you to however much time you have left on home confinement. Now, this could also create issues where this won't qualify you for things like RDAP. This could make mistakes for the FSA credits because you're not serving your sentence to the BOP. You're serving your sentence through home confinement. All kinds of issues on getting FSA corrected, updated properly. We're working diligently with a lot of our outlets on making sure individuals' FSA credits are being calculated the right way. Prior to a very recent time, FSA was not to be calculated if you had 18 months or less on your sentence. So individuals that have rather short sentences weren't getting any FSA credit. Well, that's been done away with. So now if you have a short sentence, even if it's 18 months or less, you can still qualify for FSA. FSA credits were also being blocked from individuals that had detainers. Maybe you had an ICE detainer, maybe you had a case detainer. Detainers are where you technically are going to have some kind of a hold on you after you finish your prison sentence. So like if you're committed of a crime where maybe your immigration status is not here and you're going to be deported at the end of your sentence, people were being denied for FSA credits, not being allowed to earn those credits. And that was a complete mistake. There was no reason not to get it. It's not changing anything other than giving you the credits. The FSA, nowhere in the FSA does it say somebody with a detainer cannot obtain these credits. So that's been corrected. But just because it's been corrected doesn't mean the BOP has their ducks in a row. The problem is you've got all of this stuff coming from the higher ups being passed down through legislation and whatnot into the BOP. And then your case manager, who doesn't give two rats, just let's keep it PC. Your case manager doesn't care really about your situation. They're not going to go in and do the homework. They probably don't. You probably understand CARES Act or FSA credits better than your case manager, your case management team. And that's an issue. So if you are not fully up to speed on how this works and you don't know how to argue your own case and your case manager is telling you, well, you don't qualify, and now you get pissy, you start ranting, you're not going to win a pissing match with them. You've got to paper them to death. You've got to file. You got to file. You have to know what you're doing. You got to go through your BOP procedures, your remedies. And if you're not sure where to do this, These are where we can come in and we can assist you with how you want to delegate this through the proper channels instead of just pissing everybody off. Because once you get on their bad side, maybe you're already on their bad side. Once you're on the bad side of the BOP, they will go out of their way to really slow the process down, slow your transfers down, slow how much halfway house time you're going to get down. A lot of you are trying to get to a camp. The family members that reach out to us that are all pissed off that, the judge said he was going to go here and he got sentenced here. The judge said he was going to qualify for RDAP. The court ordered him for RDAP and he's not in RDAP. You guys need to realize there's a distinct difference on who has jurisdiction over what. The court decides your sentence, how much time, things like your criminal restitution, how much halfway house time you're going to get, your charges, all of that. But once you're sentenced, all of this information gets sent off to the BOP for designation and computation to determine programming guidelines, custody levels. All of that is done at the BOP. I don't care what the judge says. The judge could say, I'm sentencing you directly to go to Coleman Federal Prison Camp, and you could get sent somewhere clearly across the country because you didn't understand that the judge does not have jurisdiction to designate where you're going to go. They can only make a recommendation. And many times the recommendations are not educated recommendations. Many times the recommendations from a court, whether it be for RDAP, whether it be for your designation, the judge is just saying, sure, you're asking for RDAP. I recommend RDAP. The judge, you ask the judge, you want to go to Lompoc Camp in California? And the judge is like, I recommend Lompoc Camp. Well, Lompoc Camp doesn't have RDAP. The judge, and you might end up going to a different camp and you get upset because the judge does not have any control over that. I don't know if all of the judges know this or if they just make a recommendation and the defendant and his family is under the impression that that recommendation is some kind of a done and deal court ordered thing that's going to absolutely happen. We also see all the time when there's gun charges, a lot of times the gun charges are dropped, but you still have the enhancement. If you're not sure, and this applies to anybody out there that's on maybe a drug case where guns were involved, but maybe you didn't get charged with the guns. Maybe the gun charges were dropped. You took your plea deal and your pre-sentence report. You want to look for any enhancements, any 2-level enhancement that you may have gotten for those guns. Even if you didn't get the charge, but you still received a 2-level enhancement, that will prevent you from the sentence reduction portion of RDAP. You can technically still take RDAP. You can get your FSA credits through RDAP, but you're not going to get the sentence reduction that RDAP can give you. RDAP is the only program I can think of off the top of my mind that if you do qualify for the sentence reduction portion of RDAP, not only can you get your 6, 9, or 12 months off for RDAP, but you can also get your FSA credits for RDAP. So it's like double dipping. You're getting the best of both worlds. And many of you think you have it all figured out. Guys, it's not just about the money. And it shouldn't be just about the money for you either. You shouldn't just be making your decisions because you're trying to save a buck. The power of what a consultant can do for you, a good consultant that knows what they're doing, can really help lead you and your attorney down a path that's going to create the less resistance to put you in the best possible situation to receive the best possible outcome. And what I mean by that is some of you are like, well, I'm not going to spend this money on a consultant. I've already got it figured out. Now, if you truly don't have the money and you can't hire a consultant, at least you have these YouTube videos and you can book a consultation for free, a free 15-minute consultation to get some basic yes and no answers, or you can spend a few $100 on a paid consultation for an hour-long case review. But if you don't have the funds to hire a consultant, or you don't want to spend the money to hire a consultant because you think that, well, your attorney told you you're going to get RDAP, or the judge said you're going to get RDAP, or they dropped your gun charge. Guys, there's so many moving parts to determine what you can and how you qualify for it. Just because you received a 24-month sentence doesn't mean you qualify for RDAP. Maybe you have substance abuse. You have all of the boxes checkmarked that you need, and you were sentenced to 24 months, and you think, all right, this is what I need to get into RDAP. 24 months is the minimum requirement for RDAP. But what you're not factoring in is by the time you get designated and you find out where you're going, by the time you get to that prison, let's say your designation to Coleman Low, which has RDAP, and you're like, great, that's a plus in my favor. I qualify for RDAP. I'm designated to a prison that has RDAP, and you're designated to self-surrender to Coleman Low, let's say on March 1st. So you get there March 1st and you find out RDAP started February 25th of the prior month. And the next class maybe doesn't start for 2 months. You were sentenced to enough time, but because the class doesn't start for 2 months, you're now going to be underneath the amount of time required. You no longer qualify for RDAP. Things like this can be avoided. Again, you can do it on your own if you know how to navigate this, but a consultant usually has resources, has people within the prison system. We can find out when the next RDAP class starts. And if it doesn't coincide with your self-surrender date, we can now create a self-surrender extension request that your attorney is going to file with the court to get the court to change the day you self-surrender so it aligns with an RDAP start date. So not only can you get the help you need for the substance abuse, but you can also qualify for the sentence reduction. These are things that many people just aren't thinking about. And if you guys stop and really realize that the moving parts are so vast, and unless you've been through this or you understand it, you're taking the time to review everything. I can tell you, even as a prison consultant, we learn new things every single day. And majority of what I learn is through our clients that are that are currently inside the BOP. It's a big, big deal, guys. The heartbreak of thinking you're going to get the time off. You're calculating your time. Like me, I had a 42-month sentence is what I was sentenced to with my good time, RDAP, halfway house. I only served 13 months of that, and that's without anything like the First Step Act. There was no FSA credits when I went into the BOP. So you guys, if you go if you go into prison with a 40 to a 50-month sentence and you plan this properly and you execute your plan, you can be out in 10 months. 10 months. Think about that. Think about what that could mean to you, your family, the fact that you can get out and earn, you can start making money, go back to work, get a new job, whatever it is you need to do. The fact is spending less time in prison, more time at home sounds like a win to me. And when you get to prison and think you have it all figured out and you've got all this calculated, and then you find out you missed one very, very important step of the process. And that one step now throws a wrench into everything. And you've calculated all this time off. And now you're looking at maybe just a regular good time and some FSA time. Now your 50-month sentence turns into 25 to 30 months versus the 10 to 12 months that it could have been if you had either A, done your homework in a more advanced manner, or put yourself in the situation where you allow a consultant to take you down the roadmap and show you where you should be going versus making all of these mistakes on your own. So yeah, that's my sales pitch and why you should hire us. You should hire us anyway. The family support that we are going to provide, helping you when you go in, if your family can't get a hold of you right away, helping them put money on your books, helping them level their expectations, helping them with visitation, how they fill out visitation forms. Granted, you'll figure all this out as you go, but peace of mind really is worth its weight in gold. Many of you that are going through this process right now, probably the hardest part is the sleepless nights, the anxiety, not knowing what's next. What are you going to tell your family? You feel like you're abandoning your family because you are. You committed a stupid crime and you're going to go pay some time for it. And your family's paying the time right along with you. If they have a support group that they can be a part of where they can ask questions and not feel like they're being, in a taboo situation. Many families don't want to discuss this with extended family members or close friends. It's embarrassing. They're ashamed. It's personal. They don't understand. No, and to boot, the people you're going to talk to probably aren't going to understand anyway. They're just going to go, "Oh man, I'm sorry you're going through this." Like this level of support they're going to offer is just a pat on the back. The level of support that we can offer you is therapeutic measures that are going to not just tell you it's all going to be okay. We can actually create actions that are going to put you in a better situation and put your family in a better situation. Creating that family bond while you're in prison is extremely important. And usually the first 2 to 6 weeks of you going into prison, that's going to be the toughest time for your family on the outside. That's when new routines are going to be created. That's when, if any stress is going to be there, they can't get a hold of you. You got shipped to the wrong prison. Visitations are on lockdown because of COVID. Maybe your family member, maybe your wife or husband is part of your case, and maybe they just got probation. They're not going to be able to come visit you because of their current legal status. So there's tons of things that you're going to want to take into consideration that if you don't, you're going to find it out the hard way. and it might be too late to really undo any of the mistakes. So take advantage of the free consultation, guys. There's a link in the description of this video. It's our Linktree account. Click on there. They're both consultation links are in there. So take a look at it. And if you want some help, guys, RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting, would love to help you. You can go over to our website, and let's pop that up here for you guys. If you want to book a consultation directly through our website, there's a basic information. It's a form right here that you'll fill out. It's just going to take you through the process. Once you fill all of this out, it will take you to the free consultation link so you can book your free consultation. I will drop a link in the description, or drop a link in the live stream right now so you have that. There you go. You just drop that link in the live chat. So you've got the link for the live chat, or you've got the link for directly on our website to inquire, get more information. You've got our Linktree information that has all of our links in there, all social media, whatnot. You can find us. Anything you're going to need will be in our Linktree. If you want to do your personal narrative and your character reference letters, and that's all you can really afford to get help with, believe me, that's going to be worth its weight in gold as well. Take advantage of it, guys, because the person that gets caught slipping, the one that makes the mistake, at some point, you're probably going to be sitting in your federal prison unit, whether it's a dorm, a cell, a camp, a cubicle. You're going to be staring at some kind of a wall. You're going to be getting ready to go to bed, and you're going to ask yourself, what could I have done different to influence a better outcome? And if you don't do all of these steps, you're going to realize that there's things you could have done that you didn't do, and you're going to potentially spend an extra year or more in prison due to this minor oversight, versus the guy that's going to sit there and look at the wall, and maybe he's got the same sentence as you, but he's going to know that he did everything that he could have done. And that creates a level of peace and tranquility that you're going to need to get through your prison sentence. When you're at peace and you've got a calming effect going on, it's going to allow you to focus on the process ahead of you. It's going to allow you to make better decisions on what classes you're taking. You're not going to be whimpering in the corner, pissed off at the world. My attorney should have told me this. You're going to blame everybody under the sun, but really, guys, you are the one that has to take responsibility for the situation that you're currently in. And when you realize that nobody's going to work for you harder than you are, you'll realize that you have nobody to rely on but yourself. And asking educated questions, putting yourself in an educated experience, that is going to create the best possible outcome. That's going to give you the least amount of time in prison and get you back home to your family, whether it be early release, halfway house, home confinement, combination of any of those following items that I just listed. That's all I got. My COVID's kicking in. I'm not feeling great. I'm still red in the face. I'm going to go sip my tea, hang out with my dogs. Hope everybody has a happy Valentine's Day tomorrow. For those of you that are getting ready to go away, make sure, you let your loved ones know, because you think you're going through this by yourself, but you're not. They're going through this with you. So if you have a special somebody tomorrow's a good day to let them know that you appreciate them sticking by you. You appreciate what you've put them through. You appreciate the fact that, at least at this point, they're willing to stick through this with you. So give them a hug, let them know how much that means to you, and let them know that they didn't deserve to have to go through this with you. That's my advice for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment if you found this information valuable. I'm RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting. People helping people, communities method, one day at a time. Stay safe, everybody. I'm out of here. Peace.